Chattanooga is the fourth largest city in the state of Tennessee. It sits along the border of two states, Tennessee and Georgia, along the Tennessee River. As of 2020, the population came in at 181,099 residents, and that number is expected to increase due to the rapid growth in the metropolitan area. It is known for certain scenic city attractions, such as the Chattanooga Choo Choo, Ruby Falls, the Tennessee Aquarium, and Rock City. However, despite the city's largest tourist attractions, Chattanooga is also known for its deep, dark secrets of hauntings that plague the city. Whether it's the poltergeists that frequent hotels, the murdered Civil War soldiers that make appearances, the faded images of indigenous native peoples dancing around campfires, or the sightings of the undead among cemeteries and college campuses, the city is filled with the repercussions of the past. Follow me down the rabbit hole as we explore more hauntings in my original hometown and uncover some of the most terrifying places to live and visit. This is Haunted Hometown Horror Stories, Season 2. The Delta Queen was a popular fixture in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was docked at Coolidge Park by the North Shore area. Back on February 11, 2009, the steamboat arrived in Chattanooga and was leased to one of the city's businessmen named Harry Phillips. The boat was relocated after fears that it would be vandalized if she stayed in New Orleans, Louisiana. Consequently, the steamboat was towed to a new city to become a floating boutique hotel for guests to enjoy. The Delta Queen is listed on the National Register of Historic Places as well as a National Historic Landmark. Other accolades include being inducted into the National Maritime Hall of Fame and a National Treasure by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. It is the last fully operational and overnight passenger steamboat in America. For years, many saw it sitting along the Tennessee River's banks at Coolidge Park. However, many do not know its dark history. But before we explore the paranormal activity of the steamboat, let's break down the history. The Delta Queen is actually the feminine to her identical twin named the Delta King, and together they are the $1 Million Boats. The twin boats were created between 1924 to 1927 on the River Clyde at the Ayrshire Yard in Glasgow, Scotland. However, it was assembled at a shipyard in Stockton, California at Banner Island. Some of the parts, such as the paddlewood shaft and the cranks, were done at Crump Stahlwerk AG, Germany, and finally completed on May 20th, 1927. The Delta Queen is said to be 285 feet long, 60 feet wide, and has a height of 66 feet 5 inches to the top of the smokestack. It also has 87 staterooms that can comfortably hold 174 passengers. At its prime, the Delta Queen was an American boat that sailed all over many well-known rivers throughout the United States. From 1940 to 1941, the Navy used the Delta Queen for its naval reservists. It would carry up to 3,000 military members on each of its trips across the waters. This includes carrying the first round of wounded soldiers away from an attack on Pearl Harbor to get them to the nearest hospitals in San Francisco. However, soon after aiding wounded war veterans getting help, the boat was later redesigned to carry regular passengers and travelers full-time. The steamboat was also known for a popular calliope that often played. It was called the Delta Queen Calliope and played on January 23, 1960. This was a simple calliope played on the keyboard by engineer Chief Fred A. Barrows. Just like the Chattanooga Choo Choo had a song devoted to capture all of its glory, so did the Delta Queen. In 1974, an actual record was dedicated to the steamboat, released by Charlie Waller and the Country Gentlemen for their album Remembrances and Forecasts. The name of the song is actually called the Delta Queen, and the two songwriters were inspired to write the record after seeing the boat sailing down the Tennessee River in the early 1970s. The Delta Queen sailed all over the United States and parts of the Caribbean for decades. However, by 1966, Congress passed the first of its kind, an at-sea law, which put the Delta Queen Steamboat out of commission. Attorneys actually stepped up to try to save the boat and tried to renegotiate the terms by asking for an exemption. Eventually, those efforts were paid off in the long run, and the boat was granted that exemption. By the 1970s, the Delta Queen was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Later, in 1989, the boat was officially declared a National Historic Landmark. Still, due to the boat's new status, it could no longer sail with over 50 passengers on board, which was a stipulation for the safety of life at sea act requirements placed back in 1966. The Delta Queen is also subject to not hosting any overnight cruises due to being a wooden ship. The Delta Queen managed to operate for decades in the waters under their negotiated exemption. However, the Safety at Sea Act exemption for the famous boat actually expired in October of 2008. Consequently, the Delta Queen was stationed in Chattanooga, Tennessee to be a hotel and restaurant for locals and visitors. Fans of the boat actively sought to get an exemption renewed from Congress so that it could carry passengers overnight again. That hard work did not go in vain. Back on November 27, 2018, the United States House of Representatives voted to reinstate an exemption for the Delta Queen to come out of retirement and continue its former services. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, the hauntings. Despite all of the fame and prestige that the Delta Queen exuded in its heyday, it too has not been exempted from the reported paranormal activities by the boat's staff and passengers. One of the most important ghosts that haunt the ship is actually one of the founders of the Delta Queen Steamboat Company, named Ma Greene. She made history by being the first female captain to be licensed to travel along the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. She was affectionately called Ma Greene by those who know her best. They call her Ma, huh? Yeah, I think we already know where this is going. Anywho, Ma Greene was one of the first people to move aboard the boat and would actually live the remainder of her life out on the boat as well. People say that she was very in tune with the boat and that they were one with one another. They feel that this contributed to her strong convictions about not selling alcohol on board of the Delta Queen. Despite the dismay of others, she remained true to herself and did not partake into liquor sales. However, Ma Greene actually passed away in 1949, and while some wanted to keep up with her traditions, others were anxious to sell alcoholic beverages on the Delta Queen against her wishes. Shortly after her death, a saloon was set up on the boat, despite Ma Greene's preferences. Reports say that after the very first cocktail was sold, tragedy struck. The saloon was almost immediately destroyed when a large barge hit the Delta Queen on the side that the saloon was located. Ironically, the barge was named after Ma Greene. It was called the Captain Mary Greene, as in Mary B. Greene. Ever since the saloon incident, historic and paranormal activities have been reported by staff, crew, and passengers. The crew believed that it was sparked by Ma Greene due to her orders being disobeyed about not selling alcohol, nor creating a saloon. Throughout the many years that the Delta Queen was in service, staff, crew, and military personnel, as well as passengers, have all experienced the presence of Ma Greene, even to this day. Despite them often reporting seeing an apparition of a woman that they believe to be her, most of them say that she's very friendly. Many believe that she is harmless and only looking after the boat that she loves so very much. For instance, internet reports say that two employees, one an entertainer and the other a pianist, both reported seeing Ma Greene on different instances. One of the ladies reported seeing a woman in a long green robe in the lounge of the boat. However, she disappeared once the lady turned the corner for a closer look. The pianist, on the other hand, remembers seeing clothing fly by very quickly. She played the piano 3 nights in a row. Yet again, Ma Greene disappeared when she went to see what had rushed past her. Still, the ladies remained unharmed, which is a good thing if you're familiar with this series. On another occasion, the former captain of the Delta Queen at the time, named Mike Williams, reported 2 interactions with Ma Greene. The first occurred when he was asleep and awakened by whispers of a woman in his ear. This startled him due to being the only one on the boat at the time. He soon heard the boiler room door slam, which led him there, where he saw that a pipe had burst. He was able to get it repaired quickly, which saved the Delta Queen from massive water damage and flooding. Ma Greene had found another way to save her beloved boat yet again. Now, the second occasion occurred when that same guy, Captain Mike, was informed by a young lady that there was an older woman aboard the boat who was complaining about being sick and feeling cold. Mike had medical training, so he would be able to come check on the health status of the elderly woman. When the captain went to check on the reportings of his fellow employee, he went to the room where the lady was heard crying out for help. However, the room was completely empty. The room was 109, the same room 109 that Ma Greene lived in prior to her passing, and the same room 109 that she died in as well. Mike went and informed the employee that the room was empty, and she was in disbelief and startled. Consequently, the encounter brought Mike and the female employee closer together. The pair was so shaken up by the strange event that just took place that they held a conversation about what just had happened as they walked away from the room. The young lady, Myra Fugger, explained that she had seen a woman just outside of her window on the deck asking for help. She even offered to walk her back to her cabin to rest. As Mike and Myra walked past an old painting of Ma Greene, Mike explained that the woman in the photo was actually Ma Greene, which made the matter even more eerie, seeing that Ma Greene had already passed years before. Yeah. Still, they eventually became friends, a couple, and married about a year later after their initial meeting. Ma Greene played matchmaker among employees on her precious vessel and helped them find true love. In 2009, the ghost reportings made mainstream media on an episode of The Ghost Lab, which appeared on the Discovery Channel. The 60-minute interview chronicled the paranormal happenings as well as included interviews from former Steamboat staff. The investigative crew spent a large amount of time on the boat, especially in the Orleans Room, the Texas Lounge, and the main quarters of Mary Greene. Utilizing their latest technologies, the crew was able to captivate an intriguing yet scary phenomenon, a conversation between Civil War soldiers. In 2018, a bill to get the Delta Queen back on the waters eventually found its way on former President Donald Trump's desk. He eventually approved and signed off on the exemption from the 1966 Safety at Sea Act on December 4, 2018. Consequently, this will allow the steamboat to resume overnight cruise services until after 2028. Present day, the Delta Queen began new renovations for mechanical safety and cosmetic upgrades that were expected to be completed by the end of 2020. However, of course, with the pandemic, things didn't pan out as quickly as they had wanted. As of 2021, the Delta Queen is currently docked along Houma, Louisiana, where funding is actively trying to be secured for repairs. According to a recent Facebook post on 9/15/2021 from the Delta Queen Steamboat Company, the boat was impacted by Hurricane Ida down in Louisiana. However, no major damage was suffered by the vessel. They are still actively gathering funding to get the Delta Queen back on the waters as soon as possible. So, with any luck, passengers can visit the boat in the near future and look for the paranormal activities that have plagued the name of the Delta Queen for nearly a century. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, take care.